Welcome back to the dojo, everybody, where this is TruTalk Tuesdays with TruMotion, where a couple of guys talk about how to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Stephen. Let's get things kicked off. Well, first off, if you hear us kind of coughing periodically throughout this episode, we've just got some phlegm that just will not leave. We apologize for some hacking sounds throughout the episode. Hopefully we can keep those to a minimum. But, yeah, that's kind of where we're at as of now. Well, let's kind of start it off like we always do with a good old recap. So, Stephen, how's your week been?
My week was all right, aside from this lingering cough. It's kind of just kept me in a kind of a fog, unfortunately. It wasn't very productive this week, but running class was great. I felt very rewarded and fulfilled, and I hope I rewarded it and helped out a whole bunch of our students this week.
Yeah. Now you got to run your first little private bell test.
Yeah.
That's always an interesting thing, because it's funny because when you're because you've been on both sides of the testing realm now.
Yeah.
And when you're in the test, you don't think about anything except that moment. But when you're running the test, you're like, okay, did we get this done? Did we get that done? Did we see this? Did we see that? And it's more of you constantly have to kind of checking yourself to make sure that you get the student to show and do everything that they're supposed to. So it's a little bit different dynamic. It's always kind of fun to observe stuff like that. So, because the students should be nervous to test. They should be, but I think it's funny because everybody always is thinking that everybody's judging every moment that they're doing. And no, they're watching. And if you're screwing up, they'll find it. Mm-hmm. But they're not zeroing in on everything, because it's they're okay, we need to run through this now. Let's kind of gather them up, bring them over here. There's more going on in the instructor, the people running the test head, than just, oh, what can I find wrong? Hopefully we don't find anything wrong. That's the goal. But yeah, so tests are always a little bit interesting. That's for sure. But yeah, no, it's been a pretty solid week, I feel like. Classes have been good. We started signing people up for tournaments. It's been our first full week of Bring a Friend. So got a lot of cool stuff going on in the dojo right now. So yeah, let's kind of get back to it. So our top 5 this week is it's a little bit different. It is a top 5 plus 1. So what we did this week was, if you had to create your all-time basketball team, starting 5 with someone coming off the bench. Okay, so you have to pick in your opinion, or whoever you would want, and it would be if this team went undefeated. Okay, so you got to pick a center, a power forward, a small forward, a shooting guard, a point guard, and then someone coming off the bench. And we won't include a coach. We won't say who's coaching them. Okay, but do you got your list with you?
I got my list with me.
All right, what do you got?
Full disclaimer: this was way outside of my comfort zone, but it was great. So I purposed it around old school NBA. Okay.
Yes. Oh, and full disclaimer as well. Stephen and I both agreed that this is 90s era refereeing.
Yeah.
Okay, not 2000 eras refereeing. 90,000s refereeing.
Fouled.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of rough and tumble here. And I looked at certain things, and I wanted to find, build a team maybe around not necessarily one player, but have each player just stand out in their own way. So for my point guard, I picked Magic Johnson. For my shooting guard, I had to go with Michael Jordan. For my small forward, I picked Larry Bird.
Ooh, Larry Bird. Dude, he is highly underestimated.
Yeah.
Highly underestimated. That's a good one.
Yeah. And so each of these individuals won MVPs, won NBA championships. My power forward, I picked Tim Duncan. And then my center, which was kind of the first player that I wanted to form my team around, was Wilt Chamberlain. So I thought I should have brought Wilt Chamberlain up in the all-time athletes because the dude made so many rules happen because of his athletic ability. Like he could dunk from the free throw, just up there. So the NBA made the rule that with your free throw, your feet couldn't cross the line because of him.
Yeah. Wilt's another one.
Yeah, coming off the bench, I have Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Okay, so you got Magic Johnson, you got Michael Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
you've got Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your power forward?
Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan. Yes, big old reliable man. That guy. Oh, I could not stand him as a player because I was a Lakers fan growing up.
Yep.
But the dude was a good he could play.
Yep.
You definitely want him on your team for sure. That's a pretty good list. Honestly, mine's not too different than yours. Okay. So at point guard, I also had Irvin Magic Johnson because again, the dude kind of revolutionized the point guard position itself. Okay. I mean, you don't see. I mean, nowadays you kind of see it, and that's because of Magic Johnson. You never saw a 6'9" point guard.
Right.
Okay. You never saw it. Okay. His rookie year and the last game of the season, the game where they beat the 76ers in Philadelphia, he played all 5 positions.
Wow.
Yeah. Excuse me. He tipped center. He jumped center at the beginning of the game. He was in the post. He was bringing the ball up the floor. I mean, he played every single position. And you just don't really see that nowadays. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I got Magic Johnson at my point guard. Obviously, if you're talking about any sort of competition, you got to have Michael Jordan at your shooting guard. Mm-hmm. The dude is the most competitive person ever. And there's a reason why he's the GOAT. Okay, we're not even going to discuss this whole LeBron-Michael debate. It's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a GOAT. Okay, now LeBron, he's putting up. If we want to look at statistics only,
okay, here we go.
LeBron is putting up better numbers than Jordan. Okay, but LeBron is also playing in his 20th season. I think Jordan only played 13. Okay, and probably the best argument is Jordan is the only player to win MVP, regular season MVP, finals MVP, first team All-NBA, and defensive player of the year as well.
Wow, that's quite a
he won
list.
Everything. It's ridiculous. So, it's Michael Jordan. My small forward, I actually have Charles Barkley.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Even though he played more of a power forward type scenario. I got Charles Barkley with my small forward. Why? Because he's that one that will get down and dirty and fight people and rebound and just plays nasty. So you always got to have one of those players on your team, in my opinion. My power forward, I have Rasheed Wallace when he played with the Pistons.
Oh.
He's kind of a Tim Duncan type player where he's long and he's pretty athletic. He could play out on the perimeter. He could play in the post. And he could D people up. And again, he also kind of had a nasty streak in him too, where he was getting teed up like every game. So, yeah. And so if you want to scrap, he'll get down and scrap with you. My center is Shaquille O'Neal.
There we go.
Yeah, I had Shaq as my center. Kind of like Wilt. I mean, Shaq's another one of those players that has caused rule changes in the game. I mean, they've changed how you can defend in the NBA because of him. They've instituted the defensive 3-second rule because of him. Because once he got the ball, if he got the ball, he was dunking on you or scoring on you. So everybody was double teaming him in the post.
Yeah.
So, and then coming up off the bench, I had the Black Mamba also, Kobe Bean Bryant. Man, that guy. It makes you wonder what he could have accomplished more in life if he wasn't taken so soon. Mm-hmm. The fact that he was a 5-time NBA champion, and then after he retires, he wins an Oscar. It's like, who does that sort of stuff? And he was smart too. He was extremely smart. He could speak multiple languages, and he would purposely learn a language of a player that he was playing against so he could talk trash in their language.
Yep.
Just to throw them off their game. It's like, it's ridiculous. Kind of on a side note of Kobe Bryant, if you've never watched The Redeem Team on Netflix, it is a great little documentary about how the U.S. basketball program came back to the prestige that it used to be. Because for a while, since the 92 Dream Team, like the U.S. dominated Olympic basketball. Then in the late 2000s, we weren't dominating Olympic basketball anymore. Like, we took third in the bronze medal a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like, this is unacceptable because we should have the best basketball athletes in the world. But the rest of the world was watching and catching up. So they put together this team being like, hey, if you're on this team, you have to commit for 4 years. Because a lot of the NBA players would be wishy-washy. They'd be like, oh, I want to have a vacation. I want to go out of town. I want blah, 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 blah. So they said, if you're on the team, you're on the team for 4 years. Okay, and you practice every summer, but you're on the team for 4 years. So they had this FIFA tournament in Las Vegas back in, I can't remember the date. I want to say it was either 2010, 2012, so somewhere in that range. I can't remember the date. So, but they had this FIFA tournament in Vegas. So after practice, all the players would get all dolled up and they'd go hit the strip. And then they would start, hitting the strip and this and that. And I remember they said that they would come home after they, did their thing and went to all the clubs and gambled or whatever. They came strolling in back to the hotel at 5 a.m. And who did they see walking through the lobby in full practice gear and weight gloves? Kobe Bryant. And they're like, dude, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to practice. Where are you guys going? We're like, we're going to bed. Like, right, we'll see you when you wake up. And he set that precedence of, holy crap, like, I'm here to work. Like, this isn't vacation time. So that happened the first night. Then they went out again the second night, came back there in the lobby. They ran into Kobe again. Then eventually people stopped going out and just started going to the gym with Kobe. And it's one of those, it's a great metaphor of you lead by example. So if you want to make changes in a culture or a team, the change has to come from one person first. So, yeah, Kobe Bryant, man, wish he wasn't gone too soon, but what a competitor. Like, what a competitor. But that was a good list. I really liked your list. I mean, those were all like 80s and 90s players, minus maybe Kobe. Well, Kobe came out. He was drafted in late 90s, I think. Yeah. Probably one of my coolest memories I'll probably ever have with an extended family member was the year Kobe was drafted. I was in California visiting family, and my great uncle loved sports also. We would always talk sports. He bought 2 Summer League Pro tickets at the Long Beach State. They called it the Pyramid because their stadium was shaped like a pyramid. And he bought 2 tickets. He's like, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I want to go. And that was the first professional game Kobe Bryant ever played.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was, we got there for the first game, and there was like 4 of them that day. And obviously the Lakers were the show capper. So we stayed all day. We watched a ton of basketball. And then when the Lakers came up, that's when like Magic Johnson showed up. A boxer named Roy Jones Jr. showed up. Like, all these celebrities started showing up to the Summer Pro League game. And it's like, people don't come to Summer Pro League games, but they come when your name's Kobe Bryant and you're a high school phenom.
Yep.
And the dude played hard. He really did. And I was like, damn, that was really cool. And it, like, at the time, it didn't have quite the impact that I thought it would. It'd be like, I just saw a rookie play that's going to be hopefully pretty good one day. No, he was amazing. So it's like, those are one of those memories that I like kind of hold dear, being like, yeah, I saw him playing his first professional game. It was really neat. Yeah, really, really neat. But moving on, speaking of like kind of on that same term of like motivating and mentoring and stuff like that, our first question to ask the senseis is, who are some of your mentors during different phases of your life? So like, who was a mentor like when you were in high school, or did you have a mentor in high school, or when you were a young adult, or when you're in college, or as a professional adult?
Okay, that's an interesting one because yeah, I've had various mentors. Obviously, you can go like my dad, my mom. Those are good mentors. But in high school, one of my history teachers was a really good mentor. I just liked how he taught history, and also just how he thought and how he would like say, "Oh, you like to build things, do this for your project." And I said, "Whoa, that's great. I like to do this." So I felt like that was really able to understand history a lot better because of that teacher. So I thought that was a great mentor right there. Not really in college as much. There was a few there. My senior year of college, I founded the management club. I'd like to say that, and I worked with a professor there, and she was very helpful and really just helped get the ball rolling because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that was a good learning opportunity there. While I was in college, I also worked, and so I had an awesome mentor. At one of my first jobs, and she was just one of the best people. I'm still really good friends with her and her husband today. In fact, I'm going to their place for dinner in a few weeks. So it's great. It's going to be great. But yeah, she really helped me like find my footing at work because I never really worked. So like being young and having a job. Kind of scary up front, especially one where it's like you're more is being asked of you than like a teenager would traditionally do.
Yeah.
So it was really helpful, and then obviously I like to give you credit because you're one of my mentors as well. I'm really grateful for all the education that I've received and everything that I've done. So
yeah. It's because I was thinking about this, and it's like, yeah, obviously, kind of like what you said, number one mentors from day one are obviously going to be your parents. My mom and dad, you can never pay them back for how much they did for you growing up as a child. And you never understand the sacrifices they make until you're older and you're doing them yourself. And then all of a sudden you reflect and you look back and you're like, holy cow, man, they did so much for me. And sometimes I was just so ungrateful for it. And then I don't know about you, but for me, like, I would dare say probably the last 10 some odd years, I've done my best to try to give back to my parents as much as I can, whether it be if they need help in their yard, if they need help at their home, if they just need someone to hang out with. Like I try to make sure that they know that I'm very grateful for what they did, and it's kind of my subtle way of paying it back, even though they don't want it back.
Right.
So I would, yeah. Obviously, my parents are probably the number one. I had a really cool teacher in middle school. My 8th grade teacher, his name was Mark Baumgartel, and he was just this small firecracker of an old man. He looked like a former gymnast. Okay. So he was older. He came out of retirement to teach us in school I think he was there for maybe 2 years. Then the dude was just kind of jacked. Looking at him, I'm like, holy crap, this dude was strong. Like, veins popping out of his arms and forearms. he was wearing all these tight polo shirts. I was like, the dude was in shape. He was like in his 60s. I was like, holy crap. This guy's for real. But what he really kind of taught me was the importance of details. Because I remember, like, I got a bad grade on a spelling test, even though I spelled every word right. And I was all like, what the hell is this? And he would circle, like when I'd write the word down, I wouldn't complete letters.
Oh.
Or I wouldn't complete the circle. There'd be gaps.
Huh.
And he'd be like, that's wrong. Because you didn't finish the word. You didn't finish the letter. So if you didn't finish the letter, you didn't finish the word. And at the time I'm like, this son of a bitch. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I spelled every word right and I got an F. And then once she kind of, obviously calm down and like look at it, you're like, I was hurrying, I was rushing. I need to take my time. I need to make sure that, that old phrase, you need to dot, cross your T's and dot your I's. Mm. He would mark you off for that.
You dotted your T's and crossed your I's instead.
Yeah, sometimes that would happen. But yeah, no, if you didn't dot an I, it was wrong. Mm. If you didn't cross your T, it was wrong. If you drew a circle and it didn't connect, it was wrong. Mm-hmm. And just little detail stuff like that where you're like, who teaches that anymore? Who would go through the time to like look at every single letter and see if you did it correctly? And again, looking back on it now, it's like nobody would do that now.
No,
not at all. And again, I was I was big into sports when I was younger, and I was on like 3 basketball teams, including the school team. And I remember I went from like practice to a game, and I didn't finish an assignment. And I said, sir, I'm really sorry. I did not have time to finish this assignment. I just laid it out for him. He's like, Mark, I understand. He's like, you were busy, but you can't play until the assignment's done. And the game was that night. And he goes, I understand your situation. I'm not saying that you were being lazy or nothing. Like, I get it. But again, if you have a missing assignment, you can't play on the school team. So he's like, you can take time and do it, or you can not play. He's like, I'm not trying to be mean, but those are the rules. So I was all like, at the time, huffing and puffing, and be like, God damn it, like, why can't you just make one small exception?
Except
like,
to get me.
He's like, he's trying to sabotage me. And in reality, those were those lessons that have like really helped as an adult. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay. So then I busted my butt through lunch period and, recess at that time, you still had recess in 8th grade, or at least they did at my school. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice those to finish the assignment to play in the game. And I turned it into him before the end of the night, and he looked at me, he goes, I knew you could do it. And I go, well, thank you. But at the time, you're still like, but it's like, those were huge lessons that I obviously still remember today. In high school, my basketball coach was probably my biggest influence. His name's John Scott. Still local in town. I still try to talk to him every now and then. But he taught the values of like hard work and perseverance. And in fact, it's funny because the Butters, they know him.
Really?
Yeah. Because he was doing something, and the first time I met Caleb and the family and this and that, and his son said, yeah, and he goes, when you say yes, and I was all, because that was real big with my coach. It's if you were asked a question, it was yes or it was no. It wasn't yeah. If you said yeah, you did push-ups.
Wow.
You did 1 push-up for every yeah. And he would specifically ask you yes or no questions, and he would count how many times you said yeah. And it's like, oh God. But it was one of those, because he said, you sounded like, yeah, you sounded uneducated. Sounded stupid. And I looked at Caleb, I go, do you guys know John Scott? And he goes, yeah, how do you know John Scott? I go, he was my coach in high school. And they're like, oh my gosh, just kind of back and forth with it. But he was definitely one of those coaches that taught accountability, taught responsibility, and it's like you didn't mess with the rules. And he had some weird rules in high school, and you're just like, what the heck? These are stupid. Like boys, everybody on the team had to be clean shaven. Okay, no facial hair at all. You had to wear 2 socks while you were playing, so you didn't get blisters. And he would check. He wouldn't check one day, and everybody would wear 2 socks, and they're like, oh, you didn't check. So they would wear 1 sock the next day, and then he would check that day. You had to show up on time. If you didn't show up on time, you were late, and you ran. And he would show up, and he'd set up the scoreboard, and whatever time was left, he would put the timer on. So it would ring when class or practice was supposed to start. And we had practice at 6 in the morning. So everybody was like rushing in late and this and that. And you had a practice uniform. And if you didn't have your full uniform, you didn't practice. So like he had a lot of rules, and he held you accountable to them. And he was very, very hard on everybody, but yet he was your biggest fan. And I remember my freshman year, I was the only freshman on the varsity team. Okay, so I played maybe like 3 minutes in the first half and this and that, and we're just killing this team. We played Dugway. Okay, so I went to a very small high school. Just full disclaimer, Dugway is this little small podunk town way out west, where the bus to bus the schools had a bus for like a 30-mile radius just to get kids to class. Okay, it was a crap hole. Okay, and they had one good player, and I think his name was something Murphy. His last name was Murphy. No, it wasn't Jason. But his name was Murphy. Whatever. He was a really good point guard, and we had drilled like he does not get layups. He does not get layups. Like you knock him on his ass. Like he does not score in the paint. And we're beating him by like 20 at halftime. So I'm thinking, yeah, this is freaking awesome. Like I'm going into the locker room, like I'm the only one smiling. And I'm thinking, why aren't these sons of bitches smiling? We're like killing this team. Mm-hmm. Well, they knew it was happening because we let Murphy score like 10 points. And he came in, and there was a stack of books on the desk, and he just flung them across the hall, like the whole room. And I'm thinking here, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Like, we're winning. What is wrong?
Why are you angry?
Exactly. And he's all like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're giving up points to this person that we're specifically telling you not to. And it doesn't matter how many points we were up. If we didn't do the job we were supposed to, it didn't matter. And it was one of those things to where it's like, those were those details that mattered. And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, this is crazy. And yeah, he taught a lot of that toughness, that mental toughness and thick skin, because he would yell at you and scream at you, but then he'd give you a hug afterwards, So yeah, he was probably my biggest mentor for a long time. And then when I got into the karate world, I started working with Dave Garvey back in, I think 2000. It was either 2005 or 2006. And he became a huge mentor of mine for a very, very long time. I would dare say like 10 plus years. He taught me a lot, and like I'll be forever grateful for his lessons and his teachings, and the ability to, because if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't be in South Jordan.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that I learned from him, and good lessons, bad lessons, and unfortunately we're not really speaking anymore. I'd love to chat with him again, but I wish him all the best in whatever he's doing, and he did have a really big influence on what I'm doing now. So like I said, I'll be forever grateful for those lessons that I was taught from him. And then obviously now I have Master Linton and Master Martin are huge mentors. Like if you ever want to know how to do anything or how to be, like those are the people to look up to. I mean, yeah. I mean, you've heard the interviews, you've heard the stories from the previous podcast. I mean, they're both amazing men and human beings, and I'm very, very grateful to have those people in my life. So, and for any of the younger people listening, or even older people, when you were younger and your parents told you, be like, hey, you got to be careful on who you hang out with because you're going to act like them. It's very true. Oh my gosh, it's so true. If you hang out with driven, motivated, successful people, you're going to be a driven, motivated, successful person. If you hang out with people that just want to get by and, whatever, man, they, ride the wave, like that happy-go-lucky. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that type of mentality. That's what you're going to be. So whoever you hang out with, you're ultimately going to become that person. So if you want more in life, you have to look at your friends and being like, do they want more in life? The answer is no, then you got to start changing stuff. The answer is yeah, be like, dude, they're killing it. They're hustling. They're going after things. Probably in the right circle. Okay. Like what is the old saying? If you hang out with 4 millionaires, you'll be the fifth. Mm-hmm. And that's so true. I mean, it doesn't have to be money motivated. Whatever motivates you, If you want to do something or obtain something, find somebody that's doing it and follow them. Follow their example. Hopefully it's a good one. So, but yeah, no, I always, every now and then I like to kind of take a look back and just kind of see who's made big impacts in my life and whether it's positive or negative. I mean, at the time, there's a positive and negative, but in the long run, there are always positives. Okay. And that's the mentality I have to take. Maybe they quote unquote wronged you. Well, at the time, that's a negative. But in the long run, it's a positive. Why? Because now you don't have to worry about them wronging you. And two, you learned a valuable lesson from that situation. So how could that be a negative? But in the moment, it is a negative. Okay. You always got to find that way to flip the switch. So next question. Now, I'm kind of curious to see what our answers are going to be, if they differ, if they don't differ. Is why is a belt system important? Okay, so most martial arts schools have a belt system. So some have a large system, some have a short system. Like for example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I believe, only has like 5 belts. It's white, blue, purple, brown, and black. I believe those are the only belts they have in Jiu-Jitsu. Us, on the other hand, have far more belts than 5. We have, I believe it's 13 to black. It's white, yellow, orange, purple, blue, advanced blue, green, advanced green, first brown, second brown, third brown, and then black. Was that 13?
12.
12. So we have 12 from white to black, and then we have 10 degrees of black. So, and then there's systems out there that have even more than us or less than us. So everybody always, or some systems don't have any. But sometimes I've been asked that question, why is a belt system important? So what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think a belt system would be important?
Well, I don't know. It goes. My mind leans towards, well, without a belt system, then it's might makes right. It's like the strongest will be the ones that determine how things go.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so, without a belt system, you might have some upstart that's maybe a former fighter come in and then just change your school.
Yeah,
there's no respect when there's no belts in a way.
Yeah, respect that. Yeah, I didn't equate it to respect. That's a good thing too. Yeah, it teaches people how to respect the ranks and not only the rank they're at, but ranks above and below them.
Yeah, because imagine, let's say, you have a school, but the only reason you're in charge is because you're the baddest MF around.
Yeah,
and then there's gonna be a badder one that comes in.
Exactly. There's always a bigger fish.
Yep.
There's always bigger fish. That's a really good answer. I honestly never thought about it in that aspect, but that makes a lot of sense.
I'm curious to see what your answer is now.
Well, the simplest one is, as a teacher, it helps me remember what to teach the students.
That's
the simplest answer is like, hey, white belts need to know this.
That's
Yellow belts need to know this. So for me as a teacher, the simplest answer is it helps me keep my information straight. Okay. The more complicated answer would probably be kind of like what you're talking about, but also it's a great way for people to learn how to set goals.
That's right.
It's a great motivator to set goals. And when you're a kid, you don't know how to set goals. Well, this is a great way to learn how to do that.
It's a physical reward and a mental reward.
Exactly. And every time you put your rank on, you should feel a sense of pride with that.
Oh, yeah.
And rank doesn't necessarily equate skill, but it does kind of equate time. Okay? Because like you were saying, there's always going to be some, just this big and bad person that's super athletic and strong and, coordinated and flexible and this and that. And their skill level could be like through the roof, but they're a yellow belt. And then you have this like frail looking old man that can barely move and he's like a brown belt. But the frail old man's also been training for 30 years, So rank, it should equate skill. But sometimes, father time catches up to everybody, and sometimes it doesn't. But typically, rank does it should equate some sort of skill level. But more than anything, it also kind of shows the level of time you put into it. Okay. So when we're thinking about rank systems, it's one of those things to where it's like whatever works for you, that works for you. That's good. But there needs to be some sort of like trackable system. Okay. Because again, as an instructor, if all of a sudden I see this class get lined up and I have no idea whose level is what,
right?
Like I have no idea what's a good lesson to teach or what's not a good lesson to teach. But if all of a sudden you see a class and you've got like half of them are white belts, you go like, okay, I need to like make sure that this is a very basic class, so everybody walks away with something. Or if you're like, okay, we've got a bunch of high ranks lined up here, you kind of warn the lower ranks, be like, hey, we're going to work on some advanced stuff. I mean, so keep, do your best to keep up, but don't feel obligated to. So for me, it's you have to have a rank system to know what to teach. Okay, because there's just certain things that I don't want to say beginners shouldn't know, but they need time for their bodies to catch up on how to know it. Okay, so if someone came in for their first lesson and I'm like, hey, let's work on spinning hook kicks, they're not going to last very long. Why? Because they're going to get super frustrated. They'll possibly hurt themselves. They're going to feel uncoordinated and they're going to leave. But if I'm like, hey, we're going to work on a front punch, okay, I can handle that. Or I'm going to work on a front kick, okay, I can handle that. Then maybe a year later, you're like, hey, you've been doing really good. Let's work on this thing called a spinning hook kick. Like, what? So that's probably the easiest, for me, the easiest thing is just it helps me keep my information straight. And it makes me remember who I need to teach what stuff to. So, but I mean, everybody's going to do their own thing with it, but I do like your explanation of like, if you don't have any ranking system, it's like the biggest and the baddest are going to kind of control the narrative of what's going on. So, yeah, and you always want to be careful with that power dynamic because eventually you'll run into somebody that's big and strong, but zero respect, zero loyalty, zero, like nothing else is good about them. Zero character. And they're like, well, I can be my instructor. So that means I'm the instructor. No, that's not what it means. Your instructor is there to coach you to be better than them anyways. I always equate it to like 19-year-old Mike Tyson. Okay. Do you not think that he could have whooped the snot out of Cus D'Amato? Oh, he'd have wiped the floor with him because Cus was an old man at that point, and Tyson was this young phenom. But yet, Cus knew more than Tyson and how to box.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyson shut up and he listened. That's how things go. So, but yeah, that's the importance of a belt system, in my opinion. Okay, you can differ, you can not differ, but whatever. Last question, and this is an interesting one as well, is what do you think is more important, motivation or discipline? It's almost kind of like that chicken before the egg question.
Mm.
What do you get more? What comes first?
I think it's closest to the go fast or go far question, because motivation, and when you're motivated, you're unstoppable. But unfortunately, motivation is a combustible resource, right?
Yeah.
If you burn out, you get a lot of. You can have a lot of motivation. You can be highly motivated, and then you just get tired.
Yeah.
And so that's when discipline kicks in. Is what do you do when you're tired? And I think so. Discipline's the foundation. Motivation is how you shoot for the moon.
I agree. If somebody was all like, "Hey, do you want somebody that's highly motivated or somebody that's highly disciplined?" I'd be like, "I'll take the highly disciplined,"
Mm-hmm.
because it's nailed it right on the head. Motivation is like an explosion.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be a giant one, and people will see it for miles, and it'll affect a lot of things, but eventually it settles. Okay. Discipline. Man, that's like, I don't even know what you would equate that to in terms of like it.
So let's take this example that just came into my head. So motivation is like an explosion, right?
Yeah.
Discipline's like a welding torch.
Okay.
It's like focused and it's
in
small,
one spot. Yeah.
but it's in one spot and it keeps going.
Yep. That's probably the best example with what we were going with.
It's a dumb example that I just came up with.
It makes sense though. But discipline, without discipline, like you can't get anything done. At that point, you're controlled by your emotions and how you feel instead of what needs to be done.
And guess what? People say, I feel motivated.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's a temporary thing.
Yep. Yeah.
No one ever says, I feel really disciplined right now.
Yeah. They should.
They should.
But no, exactly. No, there's nothing wrong with being motivated because we all need something that kind of gets the engine going.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you see something and you're like, oh, I want that. I want to obtain that. That's motivating. That's motivation. Now, discipline is what keeps that motivation going. Okay. Be like, hey, remember you said you wanted that. That means you got to do these things. Let's make sure we get these things done. Or do you really want that? Because in order to get that, you got to do these things. So do you really want that? Or are you just saying that?
Before you're willing to go.
Exactly. So you have to have both, but you want to rely on discipline. Okay. Like Stephen was just saying, people say, I feel motivated. Well, that's fine. I don't really care how you feel. It's
Great. Let's do something.
Yeah. It's like, did you do what you were supposed to? And a lot of times people associate discipline with people that are cold. It's like, no, they're just driven. It's like they have an objective and they want to meet that objective any way possible. So, yeah, it's one of those things to where like motivation is like a shot of adrenaline.
Mm.
Okay, or if you're driving in your car, it's like when you hit the NOS button.
Oh yeah,
it's like it's got you. It'll like shoot you straight forward for a short period of time, and then it kind of goes back to your discipline. Okay, so I like to use motivation with the discipline.
That's right.
So when you're like doing your thing and this and that, and you watch something, like I remember this was back in the day when Brandon, Jason, and I were hitting the gym really hard. We would pull it to the gym and I was about ready to get out. He's like, no, just sit down. And I was like, why? He goes, just sit down. And I was like, okay. So I pulled the truck door shut and pulls out his phone and there's this like 5 minute like bodybuilding video, and he's like, we're gonna watch this first. And I was like, why? He goes, just trust me. And I was like, okay. So we watch it, and by the end of the video, you're like, I want to lift something really heavy, and it's a motivating thing. And then you went in and you did it. So it's one of those things. It's where it's like, that's a good way to use motivation. Okay, not a good way to use motivation is like you watch it on your couch, and then you don't do anything. Like, oh wow, that looks really cool. I should put it. No, I don't want to. So, yeah, you have to have both. You have to have something that motivates you to exercise your discipline. Because if you just have discipline for the sake of discipline, what are you working towards?
That's right.
So, but let us know what you guys think about the whole motivation and discipline topic.
Also, post your dream team in the comments below.
Yes.
Or email it to us. What are some
TruTalk.
gems that we missed?
Because I know we've missed a few. I mean, depending on what era you grew up watching basketball. I think I talked to Martine about this on Thursday or Tuesday, and he put LeBron in, and I was like, LeBron's not supposed to be there. But I mean, if we're going by statistics, I mean, he is. I mean, he is a freak athlete.
He's really good.
Yeah, and he is a freak athlete. To be that big, that fast, that's not very fair. So I just think Jordan has him in the mental game. So did Kobe.
It's a different game now.
Kobe had him in the mental game too. Man, I would have loved to have seen Jordan and LeBron play. That would have been awesome. But yeah, it was a different era, different time frame, all that stuff. But yeah, let us know what your guys' dream team would be. I almost contemplating putting John Stockton on there.
Oh, wow.
You know, because, local, being in Utah, he's a local legend.
Right.
Playing for the Jazz. But if you look at it, he's the all-time assist leader.
That's right. And
he's the all-time steals leader.
There we go.
So it's like you want somebody that'll steal the ball and then give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay. But then I finally went with Magic because Magic only played about 11 seasons, so he didn't play as long as Stockton and like all these other players. So it's like, how good would his stats have been if he played like a 15, 16-year career? It's kind of scary.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so let us know who you guys think would be on your dream team. Let us know what some questions you would like to hear. I think we finally have set up our iTunes account, but we're not on the iPod stuff yet. So hopefully we'll get that done.
Tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. We worked on it for about an hour the other night. Oh, luckily we didn't throw anything out the window.
It makes me want to become a scammer. How much anti-scamming stuff, anti-robot stuff that they put out there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Now I just want to break this.
Yeah. It's like, how hard is it to set up an account? Like, for reals. Like, we started setting it up on one computer, but then it was linked to my account. Then we set it up on another computer. And then we got to a place where we got into this, like, endless loop.
It was a loop. And then you go on the forums and everybody's complaining about it.
This loop. And then I finally had to, like, log out of my profile on my cell phone, log onto that on my cell phone to get past the loop. And then we'd used up all our phone call verification notifications for the day.
Had to wait.
And we have to wait.
They put us in timeout.
Yeah, so Apple, get your shit together.
Once we figure this out, what else we're going to complain about at the end of our shows?
Exactly. So, but hey, we'll be like, hey, look, we got our Apple iTunes stuff set up. Everybody go check us out over there. But now, you know where to check us out on, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and very, very soon to be Apple iTunes, all that nonsense. But again, thank you for spending the day with us, spending some time with us. We always love and appreciate everybody's just effort to just listen to us and hear us out. And again, like I said, we're just a couple of karate guys talking about things to hopefully give yourself a better day and hopefully try to make the world a bit better in the process. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's like every time you go camping, what's one of the rules of camping? make the campsite cleaner and better than when you came into it. That's how I'm viewing the world right now. It's like, okay, the world is my campsite. I need to make sure I leave this bigger and better than when I came into it. And I think everybody needs to be taking that mentality as well too. So, but again, thank you for spending some time with us, and we will see you guys next week. Okay, thanks for kicking it with us.
Kick it with us next week. Bye, everyone.